Hey guys and gals, Malkuth1974 back at you with another tutorial. Today we're going to cover putting a station in orbit. In this case we're going to keep it simple and put in an orbit of Kerbal and how you do it. We're going to cover multiple parts of this. First thing we're going to show you is that we're going to do an actual contract to actually put a orbital station around Kerbal. And all it's asking for is to put a station in orbit of Kerbal, build a station that has an antenna, a docking port, and generate power. Pretty much the first two parts are self-explanatory. To generate power means all you have to do is have solar panels on it. Have a facility supporting at least 5 Kerbals. Again, that's pretty simple. That means once the facility is built or the space station is built, it has to be able to put 5 Kerbals inside of it, which is pretty easy to do. This one's asking for a certain part, so having a viewing cupola at the station, we can do that. And then maintain stability for 10 seconds means that you just don't touch any controls when it's in space and you're all set. So we're going to accept this. There, now it's active. Now let's go to the VAB, and I'm going to show you guys how to build a station. I've already built the station. Just for simplicity's sakes, I'm going to show you how to put this together. So I haven't named, let me see, my space station. Yep, there it is. So this is the space station we're going to build. Very simple, doesn't look all that great. That's okay, because this is just a tutorial. So this is a 2-part station. What it means, we're going to launch it in 2 separate parts. The first part is going to actually complete our contract because it has the cupola on it. We'll go over this right now. Has the hitchhiker part, which has a crew capacity of 4, and it has the cupola on it, which has a crew capacity of 5, which has a crew capacity of 1. I apologize about that, which gives us 5. So 4 plus 1 is 5, which will complete this part of the objective. It also has docking ports on it, which will complete this part of the objective. Has an antenna on it, and it has solar panels on it, separate places. So when we launch the first part of this, which will be this part, this will complete this contract. Now let me show you what I've done here. My suggesting for building space station is a space station, the whole space station, is to actually build it in the VAB, the whole thing, how you want it to look. And then you can take it apart and add a launcher to it and launch that particular part. In this case, we have 2 parts, and I've already done everything I need to do for simplicity's sakes. So usually I name the whole vessel like something like my space station, and then when I add a lifter to it, I name it something else. That way I do not override the old space station and lose it. That's pretty important if you do it this way, and not to lose that. So let's take a look at something. We don't want to save that. My very first part is called My Station Core. We'll take a look at it. Again, it's the same thing. There's the cupola, there's the docking ports, everything is all set up. All we need to do is get this into orbit. I added fairings to it and everything that we need. Once we get this to orbit, this contract will be complete. Again, all I did is I pulled that bottom part off, and then all I did is add the actual lifter to it. If you can, a little tip for you guys, if you build your lifters separate, you build different separate lifters that can lift different weights and different masses into space, you can do a quick trick of, if you just have this part showing at the time, if you go to load while that part is loaded, and you have your lifter separately saved. This case, let's just say I call it Rescue Craft. You hit the merge button. The merge button will bring that lifter into your current edited game, which will allow you to add it to this. It's a quick way of adding lifters and pieces of staging together if you do satellites and stuff like that. So enough for that. Let's get this up into space and then into orbit. I'm going to put this into an 80,000 meter orbit. One thing I do not want is to have a Kerbal in here, so let me go back to revert flight. We don't need a Kerbal yet. We'll launch them later. Let me revert back to assembly. I should probably have checked that first. I'm just going to go into the crew part, and I'm going to pull him out of there. I do have a automated pod on this, so it can fly without a Kerbal without any issues, so that is not an issue. You just have to decide where you want to put your vessel, and then you get a launch. In this case, I'm not going to give all of my thrust all the way up because this vessel has just a little bit too much TWR. If you guys are wondering what TWR is, that's thrust to weight ratio. If your vessel takes off too fast in low Kerbal atmosphere, you will have issues with it basically flipping on you. And I'm not going to get too much into how to get into space, but the basic idea is I'm going to start my gravity turn at 100 since I don't know how this thing handles at 100 ms, and I'm going to follow the prograde marker all the way down. The prograde marker is that little yellow ball in there. I got my target reticle and I got my prograde marker right there. I'm just going to make sure that I keep my target reticle inside that prograde marker, for I do not have any issues with this vessel flipping over or any other silly thing like that. So we'll go like that. I'm going to go to the space screen here and I'm going to check out what my height is, and I'm going to keep that like that, and I'm going to fly this. You could, in theory, fly your vessel from the map screen without too many issues, but for, you know, visual pleasantness, I will keep going back to here. I do not have Kerbal Engineer or anything to tell me any of my heights, my delta V or anything like that, just to keep everything simple for what you might be playing in a vanilla game. So the only way to check at what my actual apoapsis height is to go into the map view and look at it, which in this case we're at 23,000, and I am actually, you know, this is not a very, this is a pretty good ascent profile that I am doing. Ascent profile. I'm from the Northeast, so I say words a little bit different. Don't make fun of me. There we go, we're at 38,000. Once you clear 26,000 meters, you are pretty much free to fly as you will, and you will not have any issues with tumbling over or any other issue like that. At least that I have noticed out of all of my flying that I've done. I have more of a horizontal ascent right now, just to keep everything going at a nominal pace. You want to get that periapsis up as much as possible before you get it to orbit. I'm going to lose the fairings now. There we go. I'm going to check this out. Again, I'm going to bring this up to 80,000. What I'm doing now, I'm not going to get too much into how to do an orbital thing, but I am getting my periapsis to rise up just a tad, for I don't have to burn so much in space. I'm going to get to 80,000 meters, and then we're going to cut our engines. And there we go. I'm going to put my maneuver node on there. I'm going to set that up. I believe that's way too high. Yeah, way too high. And that's when we meet. There we go. Everything looks good. I want to set this up. This thing works very well for this vessel. I'm going to wait until I get into orbit and I can do my burn. It's only going to take 11 seconds. I'm going to keep this part for now attached to this, for I have some sort of altitude control with my space station in case I ever want to change its orbit later on down the road. There we go. So I have, if we look at this, the estimated burn says 11 seconds, my node in 14 seconds. What you want to do is you want to, I'll cover this real quick, so you want to cut this in half. So at 6 seconds, it's not quite in half, I'm going to start my burn. That way, you're not screwing this up. So to cover this real quick, the estimated burn in theory is if you could instantly burn at, you know, you can instantly get to where you wanted to get, that would actually mean what that meant. So when you cut it in half, you're technically almost getting it as close to instant as possible. I'll cover maneuver nodes a little bit later and how they mean. I mean, I can't cover everything in this. So there we go. Our vessel is in space. All we need to do now is actually launch. If we look at our contract, we can see that it is complete. It's complete because the very first part of this has every objective that we need. It has the docking port, has the 5 Kerbals inside of it, it has the antenna. Don't forget the antenna. Where is that antenna? It's right there. and it has the solar panels, which is what it means by you must have energy. You must have energy. I also have batteries on it just to keep it going. So let's go back to the Space Center, and let's do the second part of this mission. So this is where you'd go back into your Space Center, not your Space Center, your VAB. You would load up your old file, in this case, my space station. It would be back to here. At this point, we need to get this part up here. So what I would do is I'd pull it apart, I'd get rid of this, and I'd start building my second part of the stage here. I've already done it for simplicity sakes. Simplicity sakes. Why can't I speak? I've called it My Station Part 1. We'll load it up just like that. It's all set. It's all been tested. There you go. There is one thing I do want to add to this. And it's just because I've done this before. I've done some practicing with it. And I know this thing handles like a beast. So I'm going to add some more advanced inline stabilizer, which is just going to add some more torque for I have a little bit more control of this while in space. Again, I had this all set. So let me cover this real quick for you guys. What we need to do is we need to rendezvous with the station core, and we need to dock this with the station core to complete our first space station in space. This is extra that I'm adding to it just because basically when you launch a space station, they're usually so big that you have to launch them in pieces. This is my attempt to demonstrate how that works. So what I have done is, how this is going to work is I'm going to launch this, and then let me do this better. This piece without the fairings is going to be in space. So to dock, you need RCS ports, and to put RCS ports on it, you need to know the center of mass of your vessel. And to find out the center of mass of your vessel is you just hit that little center of mass, and it will show you where your center of mass is. But in this case, I have the actual solar panels right there where the center of mass is, so I just added them a little bit higher. Also, I do have the fairings on right now. That is putting the added weight, which is lowering it just a little bit. If I took the fairings off, it would rise probably right about to here. I would still have the RCS ports a little bit above it, but that's fine. If you're wondering where the RCS ports are, they're in the command and control. I grabbed these. I have 4 of them around it. That gives me my translation controls while I'm in space. And I also added the actual tanks for the RCS, which is located here. These are the Stratus V round field mono propellant tanks. This way I have easy control while in space, and I can easily dock this part with the rear end of the vessel that we just put up there. So there we go. We're all set. Save it. Launch. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. Hopefully I'm not talking too much out of my butt and making this sense. But if you want to find out how to do a rendezvous, I do have a separate video on doing that. I explain it much more than I would explain it in here. You can check that out. I got the link right there for you. But quick synopsis of it. Did I say that right? I don't know. I'll probably be corrected by somebody. But anyway, my station is right there. I'm located right there. When I launch, when I get to orbit, I want to meet up as close as possible to that station, for we're not doing any time acceleration waiting to catch up. So to do that, we need to do some time acceleration until he gets to right about the tip of this continent. Again, I am located right here, and I want to wait for him. He's there. So if I waited for him, I can't talk. If I wait until he's there and I launch, he's going to be moving this way while I'm doing my ascent profile into orbit. And by the time I get to orbit, we will just about meet. So let me do this real quick. Try not to go past it too much. That's never a good thing. And, like I just did right there. That's fine. We'll fix it when we get to orbit. I went by a little bit. I should listen to myself. I guess I should watch some of my tutorials. But anyway, there we go. I know from experience that this has way too much TWR on it, so I'm going to turn it down just a tad, and I'm going to launch, and we're going to get there. And we're going to get to space, I tell you. Again, I would really, really love to do, from a guy that used to do tutorials in Minecraft and try to do them as quick as possible. It's very hard to do a quick tutorial in Kerbal Space Program just because of how it works. So if this tutorial gets a little bit too long, I apologize in advance, but you know, it's needed for this. We're not going to cover all this. I'm going to get this into space, do some fast forwarding and post editing for you guys just to quicken this up a little bit, and we'll be right back. Alright, back from acceleration, or back from time acceleration. He might be a little bit ahead of me, but I'm going to target him now. If you noticed, I didn't target him when I took off. That's because I don't like really targeting the vessels when I take off. It's just preference for me. But all that is up to you guys, what you want to do, how you want to do it. There you go. You can tell the target is right there, so it's not actually giving my speed anymore. It's giving my relative target, so how fast he's going to me. I am cutting that. That's what happens when you target a vessel, by the way. That's why I don't like to do that until the last minute. There we go. That part of the stage is done. Stage out of the way. I'm going to get rid of my fairings, and there we go. Now I just need to wait until this line meets his line, and he's at 79,000 meters. So this should go alright. This was a very good ascent profile for me on this one. I was quite surprised with myself. Thank you very much. And there we go. So if we're losing a little bit of space here. Let me it's because I'm still not quite right where I need to be. I must be still pretty low, right? Yeah, I'm at 40. That's fine. So as you can tell, since I launched when he was over there, we got pretty close to him. I just got to keep correcting this a little bit because I keep losing. There we go. Wow, that definitely changes real quick, doesn't it? So what these lines mean, again, I taught this in my Rendezvous episode, or my Rendezvous thing, is that this is the closest approach in this orbit that I have to him. And right now my orbit's falling because I'm still kind of low. I'm not in orbit yet, so the atmosphere is kind of breaking that up on me. I'm just kind of keeping it up for I don't have too many issues. See, we're at 47,000. That means I'm still a little bit in the atmosphere, which is causing that. I'm going to get rid of those. We don't need to see those right now. Getting a little bit of heat issue, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. We are still at, let's see, I'm going to bring that up just a tad, 1 point. So if you see this, I did get pretty close to him. I'm going to be at about 1 kilometer when we do meet in orbit, which is a very good intercept thing. If I could keep it up there. We're at 53. Again, I had a pretty decent ascent profile. What ascent profile means is that I pretty much followed the atmospheric curve all the way up. I got my periapsis quite high while doing it. Probably one of the best ones I've done so far, even in a test. I'm just gonna keep fixing this to get it as close as I can. Only issue is when you do this, you tend to creep in the lower atmosphere for a little bit longer while you wait to get to that 70,000 meter magic mark, which is telling you you are in orbit of Kerbal, or at least in space of Kerbal. You're out of the atmosphere. That is pretty good right there. There we go. We'll just let that drop. We should be all set now. So we're at 60,000 meters. We did have a little bit of a heat issue here. I was quite curious why that was going on. I must have had a little bit of exiting the atmosphere. Must have heated that part up a little bit, is my guess. And while I was in map stage, I didn't quite notice it. So there we go. So let's cover a little bit real quick again. Again, this is better covered in my Rendezvous tutorial. But again, I targeted the vessel, and this 2 lines came up. These 2 lines represent where you are and where the vessel is. In this case, we're going to be 1.6 kilometer separation when we meet at this point. And at that point, what I want to do is I want to make my target relative speed to me 0. That's what this target means. This target right here means. So I basically want to match his speed. And to match his speed, I need to get that to 0, which means I'll be matching his speed, and as a consequence of that, his orbit. So there you go. That's a tricky way to doing that. And to match his speed, you actually need to burn on the retrograde marker that is selected in the target when you have him targeted. In this case, it's right here. There's a couple other markers on here. We'll cover them real quick. This little orange, this pinkish red target marker is his forward facing, or my forward facing to him. So in other words, if I have my reticle right here facing that means I am facing him directly. I'm heading towards him directly. There is the opposite marker, just like we have a prograde and a retrograde. You have basically a prograde and a retrograde target marker for the vessel. This is what would be the retrograde marker, the other little pink one. It's not a circle, it's just a pink dot with 3 little prongs out of it. That means that I am facing away from the target, meaning my engine is now facing him and my front of my vessel is facing away. So when we meet up in orbit, in this case right here, I'm going to put my engines on, which is going to set my target speed to 0. So let's go do that right now. I'm going to wait until my vessel actually reaches there. There we go. And now I'm going to put my engines on, and I'm going to watch the speed creep, and I'm going to shut it down once I hit 0. Let me get this as close as possible. There we go. I got it close. If you want to get it a little bit close, you can kind of change. You can chase the retrograde marker around a little bit. You can't quite get it to 0. I'm not going to even bother. So there we go. We are in space. I'm going to turn my lights on. Let's check out, make sure I have plenty of electric charge. I do. And again, I have intercepted him on the dark side. So there's my station core. I'm going to now face my target by facing that little pinkish target thing. Yeah, that kind of turned down a little bit. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to burn towards him. So if I want to burn towards him, I obviously want to face him. So you can see my target speed's at 0. I usually go for, he's pretty close right now, I'm going to go for a target speed of 20, meaning I'm going 20 ms faster than him at this point. And we're going to set that up. As you notice, the target marker and the prograde marker are now together. That means that I am basically thrusting towards him. I like to compare this to the orange marker is him and the prograde marker is me, meaning that if I kept things like this right now, that I'd basically pass him. I'm not going to cover this all in this thing. Watch my other video on that if you want to learn about what those actually represent, or at least my version of what they represent. I'm going to slow down a little bit. Again, if I want to slow down, I have to put my I have to burn retrograde towards him, but I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to get him actually closer to me by going just like that. So now I'm basically directly heading towards my space station core, because my retrograde and the target marker of me facing away from him are together. If in hindsight I did not slow this down, I would basically crash into him, but that's not going to happen because we're going to slow down and we're going to creep just a little bit away from him. You can tell it's creeping a little bit away from him. That's just because of how orbital mechanics work, and you can actually see the station core right there. I'm going to slow it down a little bit more, get it closer. I'm going to get as close as I can. Try not to burn too close to the station core, or you might push it away with the exhaust of your engines. I am not quite facing him, but it's quite close. I'm going to get into a very comfortable distance from him, for I don't have to do too much maneuvering when I want to dock with him. So I'm going to get that to 0. At least I'm going to try. There we go. So there we go. We are in space. I have matched orbit with him. It was very simple. We did it from launch. Everything's good. I'm going to show you a little trick. one way we can fix this, because he's facing the wrong way, I want to dock up here. One way we can fix this is that if you take the little bracket keys, if you look on your keyboard, the enter key, you have the two little bracket keys. That makes you change vessels in Kerbal Space Program. So I'm going to change vessels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip him over, and I'm going to make him face my vehicle a little bit, or as close as I possibly can, just like that. There we go. Fix SAS, just like that. And then I'm going to go back to my vessel. So there we go. Now he's facing me. I'm going to right-click on the docking port I want to dock with. It's going to bring up this little menu. It says Set as Target. I'm going to click it, and now his docking port is now the target point that my vessel is pointing at. If I turn my vessel around, we'll see that this little target ball still represents the vessel, but it actually represents the docking port. As you can tell, I'm almost directly lined up with him. So now we need to start doing some translation and some RCS maneuvers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, this is how I do it. It might be different for other people. This is the way I'm going to teach you, and hopefully it helps you guys out. I'm going to basically match my vessel's angle to the same as my target vessel. And let me just get that, or get it at least as close as I can. That's close enough for right now. So now I'm all matched with him. Everything's good. We need to turn our RCS on. RCS is the R button. And if you're wondering what SAS is is the T button. I never really cover that. I keep forgetting. I automatically assume you guys know what that is, but sometimes I could be incorrect. Alright, so in the old ways, you'd have to go to docking and do that. Docking mode is basically useless now. I don't even know why they still have it there. I don't use it anymore. So I'm going to teach you the way it's done now in Kerbal Space Program 1.0. to dock. Okay, so the important keys to remember, you got your translation keys, which is I, J, K, and L. If you don't know what translation means, translation basically means, see how I'm pushing these buttons right now? That's translation. That means it's going to make me move left, right, up, and down. Alright, so the forward and back key is now the H and N key. So forward is H, N is reverse. You can see my thrusters are going forward and back. Alright, and to rotate your vessel is now the WASD key. So if we go like that, I'm kind of turning it right now. That's rotate in one way. And then the Q and E key is the actual kind of rotate up and down key. So if we look at what we have going right here, my translation is set up right. Up and down is sort of set up right. It's actually a little bit opposite, but that's alright. And the forward and the back. So again, the I, J, K, and L is your translation, right, left, up, and down. Your H and N key is your forward and your back. And your A, S, D, W is your rotation key. And your Q and E is your actual kind of like your roll key, your roll rotation key, I guess you can call it. So if you can keep all that in mind, this is how we're going to dock. So, again, if we remember, that target reticle represents our docking port. I'm almost lined up to him right now, but not quite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some translation up. So I'm pushing the I key on my thing. You can tell that I'm rising up a little bit right now. And I'm just going to use my view here to check out where I am in relation to the vessel. And now I'm going to kind of get for I am not moving anymore. And you can just eye this. If you're looking at the vessel, I can see I'm creeping a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of fix that. And if we look at my target speed again, it says 0. I am basically lined up completely with the vessel now. So I'm going to push the H key, which is going to make me go forward. And now if we look at my target reticle, we can see that the target key is in there, my reticle is in there, and the Retrograde Marker is in there. That is pretty much indicating that we are almost completely lined up. I am not quite lined up, but I'm just going to do some more translation keys here to get them in, to get as close as I can. And I'm going to slow this down just a tad, we don't hit too far. So how the docking works in Kerbal Space Program is that it's pretty forgiving. Your docking ports have this magic magnetic field to them, which we just witnessed right there. So if you're a little bit off when you actually hit the other docking port, it will basically pull you in and actually get you to dock, just like I did there. Now I know I made that look very easy, and I know it can get frustrating to dock, but I promise you guys that if you practice with it, and you keep practicing with it, docking becomes very easy. You just have to learn to use the your keys correctly, your translation keys, your rotation keys, your roll keys, and if you get everything all set up nice and good, you will have your space station put together. So there you go. That is how you get a space station together, how you do the space station contract. Remember, read the contract carefully, what it is asking for, how many Kerbals it wants on there, what parts it wants on there, and you know, most important, it's always going to be a docking port on there, a communication, and the power requirement, which in this case is always the solar panels. Doesn't matter which solar panels you have, as long as it generates power. And after that, you know, whatever you want to add to your station is up to you. And that's how you do it. So as always, guys, I hope this helps you out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting this page. My page has been growing exponentially since Kerbal Space Program 1.0 came out. I take it that I am making the correct videos that everybody's enjoying. So there you go. I hope it helps you guys out, and thanks for helping me out with the page. So this is Malkuth 1974. You guys have a great day. Malkuth out of here.